Housewives on Cape Cod, Living the Dream. A show that celebrates ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Hear what motivated them to attain their goals. See which circumstances molded their characters and turned them into everyday heroes. Learn more about this show and the hosts for Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod TV and radio on Facebook. Now here are your hosts, the Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, KathleenO'KeefeKanavos and Lori Boyle.
Welcome to the Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. I'm your Wicked Housewife, KathleenO'KeefeKanavos, aka Kat. My friends call me Kat, so I hope you do too. And to my left is Lori Boyle, the other Wicked Housewife on Cape Cod. And we have a great show for you today. We have Cherie Clark with us. And Cherie is a friend of Teresa Velarde, who we've had on for 2 other shows. And Teresa was talking about going from abuse to abundance. And in our last episode with Teresa, she was talking about a life of abundance. And so Cherie is going to be sharing some of her insights with us on how to move from an abusive relationship into a life of abundance as well. Welcome to the show with us today, Cherie.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Lori.
Oh,
it's a pleasure to be
welcome.
here. It absolutely is a pleasure to be here, and it's so blessed to be able to be used in that way. I never imagined that, back, 20 some years ago, that I would have ever gotten out of that and ever even loved myself enough to love the others and help the others to heal and grow. And
what others are you talking about? The others that were abusive to you, or the other women who are going through this?
Yeah, the other women. The other women that
women.
are, it's been a journey. It's been a real journey into the personal development world,
Right.
and my healing began when for me it was when I really understood who I was and who I was created to be, and taken that time to, so much had been taken away from me, so much, and it began, for me, it began early, and I have found working with women,
early?
I mean, as I being raised, and
being
not
raised.
understanding, I'm not having the ability to know who I was, and just dysfunction. There was a lot of dysfunction growing up, and so that's what I find. Just a little bit, and I'm sure that we'll go back more into that. But I have been able to help other women that have chosen to come out of that. Made the decision, and they're not in that healed place, and help guide them into that healed place.
Well, just to start off,
Yeah.
you were in an abusive relationship for 13 years.
Yes.
You were married to a man who abused you.
Yes.
And you also made your way out of it.
Yeah.
But you went back to counsel other women and to live with those women actually in the halfway houses or the protected housing that they had. So you have a lot of firsthand experience,
Absolutely.
dealing with women who have been through the same thing that you've been through. And it's like Kat writing her book, you take your lemons and you make lemonade,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you
Yeah.
always have to, that's a great thing to keep in mind, that and we were just talking about the fire, how it purifies, and it's
Absolutely.
coming anyway in anyone's life.
gonna
You're
happen.
going to have trying things, but just remember that there's going to be a way to turn it into
Exactly.
lemonade.
And
So-
it's almost like, we always hear about on the airplanes, take the gas mask, put it on yourself first, and then help someone else. So you put the gas mask on yourself, and then once you knew you were safe, you went around and made sure that the women who did not have the gas masks on put them on correctly, and you helped them through a life-threatening situation. It's not, we read about it all the time, women who don't make it out, alive.
Yes.
They're in extremely abusive relationships. So this can be a life-saving program. Listening to Cherie talk about how to start. What are the red flags? What has she seen with all these women she's worked with? What is the same flag that goes up that flagpole? And what are one of those flags?
For me, and I'm going to talk more in regards to us as the women, as the women that are attracted or choose these men that are abusive, or we as women that were not validated and not we don't know our worth. We don't accept healthy, relationship because of it, that possibly for me, I'm just going to say for myself, it began, like I mentioned, it began young when I was, felt, nobody was there for me, or that rejection, that abandonment. And so when I was old enough to, I married my high school sweetheart. So, it was a very immature, I didn't know myself. I, went into that relationship, with these belief systems that were, established. And in the relationship, again, like Teresa mentioned, the isolation, and, I was a social person, and most often that is the case, the nurturing heart, the women that I have dealt with, they're reaching out, they have that belief that, things are going to change, and that he's going to get better. If I just love him more, he will get better, and he will love me, and he will treat me in the way that I'm searching for. And so with that being said, I'm not sure that I answered your question.
No, I
but
think that
it's
is.
it is so important, for you, if you're experiencing this feeling, like Teresa had mentioned, of not being able to be who you are, not feeling like there's an emptiness, feeling like you're not supported in your dreams, feeling in a way of lack.
Right. And if you're feeling that, that is an enormous sign right there that you've got to move on. This is not going to be good. And we do try to say to ourselves, oh yes, he'll change, he'll be a better person, he'll do things differently, he's sorry. But the thing is, he doesn't, and by you saying that, believing that, and staying is just saying to him, I knew it again.
It's reinforced.
It's
really,
that's
reinforcement.
Right.
And Cherie was bringing out a very important thing. Many women who are in abusive relationships were raised in an abusive home. In other words, they have been conditioned to think that they are unworthy, that they're not smart, that they can't really accomplish anything, and they're kept under the thumb of possibly an abusive or extremely dominant family member. Now, because of that, we're kind of conditioned. We either marry our mother or our father. I don't care what the psychiatrists say otherwise, but when we go out seeking relationships, we seek relationships with which we feel comfortable. And if we've been conditioned to be under the thumb of a dominant parent, we often seek a relationship with another dominant person. And if the relationship in our family was abusive, we often feel most comfortable in an uncomfortable relationship because that's what we're used to. And so one of the first things that we need to do when we take that step back, where you're talking about the backward law, take that step back and say, okay, who am I in this relationship with? Who in my family, or if I have been a victim in my family, you are going to attract a predator. And that's what I'm really trying to get to. Most of these people in these relationships that are holding you down are predators. So ask yourself why you're a victim. And that's one of the red flags that goes up, and one of the first things you've got to do is seek help to get you out of that mentality.
Right, but this happens to men, this happens to women, this happens to children.
It does.
We see now on Facebook, they have the kids that are bullied on Facebook. And
the stalkers.
The stalkers, things like that. These people are bad. They're really bad people, and I don't think that we say it enough to children that if someone is making you feel bad for nothing other than being yourself, stop right there, because you're being bullied. You know, and that's the first thing you want to know, is you're going to recognize it, whether it's a parent or a teacher or a kid at school, or you're a man or you're a woman. It doesn't matter. When you start feeling bad just because you're you, that is a huge sign right there.
It's true.
I have to deal with this.
Yeah,
somehow.
and one of the first things that a bully is afraid of is groups. So if you're a woman and you have a group of friends, and you find that the relationship you're in with a man or even another woman, whatever it is, your significant other is trying to pull you away from those friends and isolate you, it's so that they can have more control. Because as long as you have friends around you who are going to say, this isn't right, that's a threat to them. And so your friends are so important to you.
And that's what I was, and it's so awesome that you just went to that point, because that's something that I would teach the women. For myself, it was so prevalent to have the environment that supported me, the environment that poured into me and encouraged me and edified me to become and be and become who I am, or who, you know, and not to belittle or you know, environment plays such a key in, you know, it really does.
And you're in control of that by going to the positive people, staying with the people that really like you and people you feel good around. You know, those are the people you need to be with all the time.
And we hear that, you know, you hear that growing up, you know, oh, you know, your parents are always going to tell you, you know, just, oh, that's a bad environment, or, you know, don't hang around them, or, you know, whatever. You hear those things. It's common to hear. However, when you get to that place of knowing, you know, and accepting, you know, that yes, I am worthy, and you know, and that's where the abundance comes in. You know, just being around amazing women like yourself and amazing women like Teresa, and you know, the amazing women that I have had the pleasure of calling true good friends. I didn't have that in that relationship. I didn't know me, number one, because that was you know, that was the choice that I had made, you know, to stay, and you know, was not able to be truthful or authentic with my friendships, because you hide. You hide.
Because you're ashamed of it. Now you're going to hide it from your friends, and you think you're hiding it from your friends.
But your friends
they really know.
Your
they always
friends
know.
Are smart, And you know, opposites do attract, Gloria. You know, you know, my husband and I are very opposite, and at times we have to agree to disagree in a very nice way. But you know, opposites do attract, but it's when that opposites attracts goes bad because it went too far over. And that's where the problem is. So if you're sitting at home listening to this and going, but I'm very different from my husband, that could be a good thing. You know, we're talking about when that opposite attracts goes bad. You know, and women have always stuck together. Women are, you know, I remember when I was dating in high school and my boyfriend said to me, do you guys always travel in a pack? I said, yeah, we kind of do. You know, that's kind of daunting to them, but women have a tendency to nurture each other. And when you find that you're being pulled away from that, I think that might be one of the red flags that goes up. So you said that you were actually living in a home with these women. Give us a little bit of what that was like. Tell us.
Absolutely. A little challenging. Let's just say that it, you know, had its moments of challenges. You know, however, because again, I had taken the time to heal and grow and knew me and knew what I was created to do, that I was able to do it. But for the program, it was an amazing program that the women could come in. They had 12 months. It was a 12-month residential program. I lived right with them and taught them financial security. you know, all the past experiences that I had in the professional world, as well as, you know, everything all just came together. Parenting and you know, self-worth, a big part of it. Counseling, you know, and there are so many programs out there. If you're in, you know, if the women are in a place, and if you're watching and you just don't know where to turn, there's help. There's resources. There are people who their heart is to pour into you and be there, and so that's, you know, a brief, you know, the house again that I was in was a very intimate home for that women could bring their children, and
great.
that's another you know, thing too, is when children are involved.
Oh, yes.
You know, there's that lie that's believed. You know, for myself, I'm just going to say for myself, I wasn't going to divorce. I had, you know, when I say that it came from that place, back then, for me, it wasn't my parents abused me. They divorced. Which is very common. But for me, you know, it was very traumatic, and it caused that abandonment and that rejection, and it's so common for the women. And if you know, again, for this, if you have children and you have that belief system, you know, they're going to be better with both of us together, and you know, and stay in that abuse for that reason. That's another, you know, huge thing. So this program allowed for the children, them to bring their children, and there, you know, we provided childcare, and we provided classes for children, and you know, it was, and they were able to purchase their own home, or, you know, the whole program was focused on having them to become independent, because the statistics are that they go back to the abuser or abuser, and so, you know, really having that time to, you know, it's not just making a decision, you know, get out of it and it's done. There's, you know,
there's work to be done.
There's work to be done.
That's just the beginning,
and
right?
That's just the beginning, and that's the abundance aspect of it. You come out the other side. You go through the fire and you come out the other side.
So what, you know, for our audience watching today, if there's some women who are watching and they're in a place where they need to get out of that place with their children, how would you tell them to take the first step? What should they do, and where can they find that help, no matter where they are? Is there something online that they could go to?
There are crisis, I think it's crisiscenters.com. There are many different resources if they were able to.
Crisiscenter.com.
I'm not positive.
Okay.
I'm not positive about that. But there are so many resources. I would just encourage you to reach out. Reach out to a church. Reach out to, you know, the 411. Reach out to those places that have the resources and start there. And you know, there are many different options.
So the first step, I think, Lori, is to get yourself out of being isolated.
Right. Tell someone.
Tell someone.
That's what
Tell
Teresa always
someone.
says. Number one is tell someone. And there is an organization here on Cape Cod. We'll have their information for you if you're interested. The other thing I'd like to know, Cherie, is what if you're the friend of a woman who you see being abused? What can you say to her? Is there anything that you can do? Is there anything that works, or do you just have to wait for her to make the move?
It's a really good question. And Lori, for me, I have witnessed that with you know, friends. I actually find that it's ultimately our decision. However, just pouring into them their worthiness, encouraging them, and you know, that's a big step, because 99% of the time it is because they don't feel that they're worthy enough to leave that.
Yeah.
And so in asking them the powerful questions, you know,
Give me a powerful question you could ask.
You know, just without it coming out as what our desire is. Because us as friends, you know, we don't want them to be in that relationship knowing that there's better for them.
Yes.
So, you know, just in conversations, you know, being there for them no matter what without judgment.
Yes.
You know, and that's, you know, a powerful question, just asking them what they want. You know, just having them explore who
themselves.
they are. And, you know, in a non-judgmental, you know,
that's really important, though. That's really important.
It really is.
Because you don't want to lose your friendship, even if they go back to the abuser, because they still need you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they still need
and
you.
that's what's crucial is, you know, you get frustrated. You know, the reality is you get frustrated, you know, because you do want more for them. So that frustration kicks in, and it may have you to, you know, display, you know, show that to them, or you know, so it's.
Yeah, they're already frustrated, so you don't want to show them that you're frustrated too.
Right.
You
They
wanna
just
be
need the love.
supportive.
Right.
They're there in that relationship because there's a void, and they need to know that they're unconditionally loved by someone. You know, so, you know, throwing out, you know, you need to leave them and, you know, do this and do that, and, you know, giving them all of the demands that they're already receiving at home is not going to work. You know, just loving them, just loving them.
That's great advice. Just love them, be there for them, and let them know that no matter what decision they make, you're going to be there for them.
Yep.
You know, and then they've got somewhere to go. Like Teresa said, as soon as she realized she needed to leave, she did not return to her family, because she knew that if she did, that was the first place he was going to look for her. So by going to her friends and yet not even letting her family know where she was, which drove them kind of nuts, she was protecting them. But sometimes you reach that point in your relationship where you're not only running for your life, you're running for the lives of your loved ones. And that's where your friends come in.
Right.
They'll clean out the garage and hide you in there.
So you can put your car in.
Yeah.
When their car's never been in there.
You know, there are steps. It's possible to do. And it's hard, but
I thought that was really smart of her to have the plan with her friends, knowing that he would go to the family to find them, and also having a child. I think it just it makes it that much harder, doesn't it? I mean, now your life is a little more complicated, but now you really have something to run for. You know, you have a reason,
you're not just
a bigger
running
reason
from,
to leave.
You're running for your child, because you have to break the cycle somewhere. You know, quite often when you're abused in a relationship, you might have grown up in a house that was an abusive home, and now your child is watching the abuse in your family. Somewhere you need to break that cycle. And when you decide to leave and stand in your power and speak your truth, you're also healing your children and making them strong so that they don't have to go through what you're going through. And isn't that what every parent wants? They never want their children to have to suffer like
because your child's going through it too. Your child sees everything that you think they don't see, but they see it all.
They hear it all.
And they hear it all. That's right. So do it for yourself, your kids, and your entire family.
And there is help. You know, you've got so many women on your side. It's not like you have to go to another man for help. You go to these homes that Cherie's talking about, and you're going to have a family of women surrounding you. You're not going to be alone. You don't have to go through this alone, ever.
That's right.
Ever.
So thank you so much for being with us, Cherie.
You're welcome. Thank you for having
It's been such
me.
a nice surprise, you know, to have you. And Teresa brought Cherie down to meet us and be on the show, and we're just delighted to have her
at the last minute.
So thank you again. Thanks for being with us. Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. Thank you.
Thank you for joining Lori Boyle and Kathleen O'KeefeKanavos on Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. Don't forget to like us on Facebook for our show updates and join us next time when we showcase more everyday heroes.